Bien, bonjour à tous. Là, il y a un petit pic de connexion. Alors, bienvenue à toutes les personnes qui se sont connectées à ce webinaire qui est proposé par le point de contact national français pour l'ERC. C'est un webinaire qui aujourd'hui va être dédié à un appel un peu particulier de l'ERC. C'est un financement additionnel qui s'appelle le Proof of Concept, le PoC, l'appel PoC. Et plus particulièrement, nous allons parler des conditions de l'appel pour le call 2023. Donc, comme vous avez peut-être remarqué quand vous êtes connecté, la session va être enregistrée de manière à pouvoir être mise à disposition ultérieurement sur notre site web. Pendant les présentations, nous vous proposons de couper vos caméras et vos micros. Et puis, quand on passera aux questions-réponses, ce sera exactement le contraire. On vous invitera à ouvrir vos micros et vos caméras. Alors, aujourd'hui, donc, le webinaire va s'articuler en une très courte présentation par le point de contact national ERC. Donc, je représente avec ma collègue Rosa Bernal Carrera. Donc, je m'appelle Caroline Angéli, je suis membre du PCN ERC. Et Rosa Bernal, est-ce que tu peux remuer la main? Voilà, c'est ma collègue qui participe à l'organisation de ce webinaire aujourd'hui. Donc, je vais vous présenter assez brièvement l'esprit, de manière assez synthétique, l'esprit des appels à projets Proof of Concept, avant de passer la parole à Lynn Volkers, qui est donc, et que nous remercions d'être ici, qui est la coordinatrice de l'appel Proof of Concept à l'agence exécutive de l'ERC. Donc, elle nous présentera de manière détaillée l'esprit de l'appel, les modalités de candidature et des conseils pour bien candidater. Ensuite, nous passerons à un retour d'expérience. Donc, ce sera Alejandro Franco, qui a été lauréat sur l'appel 2022 des Proof of Concept, donc un appel Horizon Europe, et qui nous fera un retour d'expérience sur sa participation. Donc, dans un premier temps, on a les présentations elles-mêmes et ensuite, on bascule sur un large moment d'échange autour des questions-réponses. Et nous vous invitons à plutôt poser vos questions directement aux intervenants, soit uniquement à Lynn, soit uniquement à Alejandro, soit aux deux. Évidemment, nous aussi, on peut répondre aux questions. Hein, c'est très interactif et ça a vocation à être très interactif. Et donc, nous vous invitons à privilégier au maximum les questions directes à nos intervenants. Et donc à limiter les questions sur le chat. Ensuite, il y aura une courte conclusion où je vous donnerai un certain nombre de liens utiles et je vous rappellerai les actions que le point de contact national français peut faire pour vous. Alors, sur une courte présentation des financements PoC, d'abord, à qui s'adressent ces financements? Alors, c'est assez particulier puisque c'est un financement additionnels au sein du programme de travail 2023. Et donc, ils ne sont ouverts qu'à des lauréats ERC des bourses principales que sont les Starting, les Consolidators, les Advanced et les Synergies. C'est la première condition. La deuxième, c'est que le projet soit en cours de réalisation ou bien ce soit terminé assez récemment. Et si on considère l'appel PoC 2023, ce seront des projets qui se sont terminés depuis moins de 12 mois à compter du 1er janvier 2023, qui est la date de référence pour l'appel 2023. À quelle étape intervient ce financement PoC? Pendant la réalisation des projets, les chercheurs produisent un certain nombre de résultats. Et là, un premier point de vigilance sur la notion de résultat. Ce sont des résultats qui sont attendus directement dans le cadre du projet ERC, mais ça peut être aussi des résultats que j'appellerais connexes, c'est-à-dire de nouveaux instruments qui ont été développés pour réaliser le projet, de nouvelles méthodologies, des savoir-faire et des logiciels qui ont été développés pour servir l'objectif du projet PoC. Donc, les résultats qui peuvent être valorisés dans les ERC sont assez larges. Une fois que le résultat est produit et que vous vous dites ah, ce résultat, potentiellement, il a une valeur socio-économique, entre le moment où on a eu l'idée et le moment où on va le valoriser socio-économiquement, le chemin est assez long et il y a un certain nombre d'étapes qui vont se dérouler. Le financement PoC se situe très très en amont de ce chemin de la valorisation. Il intervient très tôt dans les étapes en vue de la valorisation socio-économique. Donc, ces quelques mots pour poser, après avoir posé le projet PoC de ces quelques mots, je vous invite, on va donc passer à la présentation de Lynn. So, Lynn is going to make a presentation in English. So, I'm going to stop my screen, my share screening. And I propose to Lynn that you take the floor.
Thank you, Caroline, and thank you very much for this occasion to speak about the ERC Proof of Concept 2023. So I will start sharing my screen and just go ahead. So as mentioned by Caroline, the proof of concept is a supplementary funding for you as principal investigators holding an ERC grant. And since 2019, we have given out the grants as lump sums of 150,000. The grants are signed for a duration of 18 months, but it's important to notice that you should plan your activities described in your proposal for 12 months. So these 18 months is basically just an administrative decision to allow everybody to get up to speed with their projects and to have some delays without having to do amendments on the duration. So this is one important thing to keep in mind. We are running the proof of concept as one continuous open call. And again, in 2023, we have 3 cutoff deadlines, one in January, one in April, and one in September. So we are back to the normal schedule that we used to have before Horizon Europe kicked in. And in 2020, I hear someone who has not turned off their mic.
I think it's Michel. Michel de Mora, did you switch off your microphone? No.
I go ahead. So for 2023, we have a call budget of 30 million euro, and this is split equally over the 3 cutoff deadlines. And by experience, and this is one of also of my important messages, we get fewer applications in January and in April than we do in September. So this year, actually, the last call of 2022, we have more than double for the 3rd deadline. So it means that the success rates are much higher for the evaluation we conduct in January and in April. So this is also something to keep in mind when you consider applying for a proof of concept. And as just explained by Caroline, it's for ERC grantees who have a grant, a main grant which is either running or ends after 1st of January or has ended after 1st of January 2022. It needs to be shown also in your application that the idea you have and you intend to carry out has to draw substantially on the ERC funded research. So this is something you will also explain in detail to the experts. You are allowed only one eligible application per year. So over the 3 deadlines. So in case you would submit an application which is then found to be ineligible, you are then eligible to apply to one of the following deadlines. And the Scientific Council decided for Horizon Europe that there would be a maximum of 3 PoC grants to be awarded for either a starting grant, consolidated grant, or the advanced grant, but that these PoC projects can run in parallel. So this is something a bit new. It was not the case previously. And for synergy grant, there is a cap of 6 PoC grants per synergy grant. And there we need to ask then if you're applying as a synergy grantee, that you have the consent of all your fellow synergy PIs when you apply. One other important point is that the host institution can be different than for your main grant. And additional beneficiaries are allowed as for the ERC main grants. Especially for PoC 2023, you would have to explain that if you have beneficiaries from 3rd countries, so that are situated outside EU or an associated country, they should be essential for the implementation of your grant. So this is something you need to state very clearly in your application. And we have the same rules regarding portability of the PoC grant as for the main grant. So you would be able to take your PoC grant and move to another host institution during the course of the project. So on the proposal itself, it's quite a simple layout of 10 pages, excluding references. It has 3 parts. The first is on the idea itself, its breakthrough innovation potential, and we give you a maximum of 3 pages to explain this. Second section is on the approach and methodology, which has a limit of 6 pages. And then finally, 1 page to explain the strategic lead and the project management by the PI. And this has a limit of 1 page. You will have to fill, as for the main grants, and you know this one, this administrative submission form A, it's entirely similar to the main grant applications. So you should also count some time to fill that in. And then as for the main grants, we have a host institution support letter, which is just to let us know that your host institution agrees with your application. And what is then important for ERC PoC, which we don't have for the other calls, is that you can submit with your application letters of support or letters of intent of, for instance, any parties that could have interest to support your project. So it can be industry partners, it can be groups of end users, it can be policymakers, whatever makes sense for your project. And these letters will be made available to our evaluators. So this can be an important part of your application. And as for the main grants, we have done an ERC class specifically on PoC. So I inserted here a link to this small video of, I think, around 9-10 minutes, which will explain to you some of the details as well. So on the evaluation procedure, we have a different procedure than for the main grants. It's a single-step evaluation. We take around 100 days from the submission deadline to we notify you via the FNT portal. The evaluation is implemented as a remote evaluation. We have a panel of around 80 independent experts in technology transfer and social innovation. Each proposal is evaluated by 5 of these experts. And each expert gives a comment and a mark for each of the 3 parts that I just described. And we operate with 2 pass marks, either very good, or a fail mark. We don't do any panel meeting discussion. We only rely on the individual reviews to build the ranked list. And to be ranked, an applicant need to have passed all the 3 evaluation elements by a majority of the experts. So minimum 3 experts needs to give a pass mark to each evaluation element. And then we rank with the highest weight on the first evaluation element, the idea, followed by the approach and methodology, and then on the PI, strategic lead and implementation of the project. And then we simply do a cutoff based on the budget we have available, and we choose the highest ranked proposals that are main listed, and then we build a short reserve list in case of granting failure among the main list projects. So I wanted to mention a bit the PoC revision and novelties that was introduced with Horizon Europe. So the objective remains the same, to facilitate the exploration of the commercial and social innovation potential of our ERC-funded research. But what is important is that now we have less of a focus on achieving direct economic or social impact as a result of the PoC grant. So this is an acknowledgement that PoC grants are given to take the very first first steps along the track of this pathway of valorization, as mentioned also by Caroline. So the scope has been enlarged by the Scientific Council to include further research activities to explore the innovation potential of your ideas. We base now, since the proof of concept has become a frontier grant as the other ERC grants, we base the evaluation on the sole criterion of excellence, comprising the 3 sections that I mentioned: the breakthrough innovation potential, the approach and methodology, and the strategic lead and project management of the PI. What is required now within 6 months of the project start is that you present with a data management plan. So this became compulsory this year. And also that the host institution has a gender equality plan, and this is required already at the time of the signature of the grant. So we made a few changes to the wording of the work program, and in accordance with this, also to the wording of our Part B template. And I just wanted to go through this in detail because there was a bit of confusion with the first evaluation element 1A, especially the high risk, high gain dimensions of the idea. So our Part B was referring to the risk mitigation plan. So now we changed the text to make it more clear and simple what we mean by high risk, high gain. And this is reflected also in Part B. And the question on the risk mitigation has been moved down to the last element on the management of the project. So there you will also find the risk and contingency measure table now, which does not count to the 1 page you have available for your section 3. On element 1B, approach and methodology of the work program, we simplified a bit the wording through the deletion of the first sentence on feasibility, and the reference to feasibility has now been added to the question on timescales and resources. And many of these changes came also from feedback from our experts, so it became clear, you know, where there was some ambiguities in the wording we had developed for Horizon Europe. So in the corresponding point in Part B, we added a request to describe the choice of pathway from research to innovation, and that applicants would put themselves along this pathway, or the project along this pathway. And this was something that was specifically asked by many of the evaluators. So if you would include that, that would really also reflect very well back on your project. And as I mentioned, the last evaluation element has been changed. In 2022, it was called capacity and commitment of the PI. But as this is additional funding for ERC grantees, which are already excellent, experts felt that this became a sort of a redundant evaluation element, and therefore it was changed to strategic lead and project management, and we added the risk and contingency measures under this third point. Then I also wanted to mention that in 2023, the Scientific Council decided that we would give out Seal of Excellence to proposals that have received a pass mark on all evaluation elements, but which cannot be funded due to the lack of budget. So this Seal of Excellence will be provided automatically to applicants when they receive the results of the evaluation via the F&T portal. So this will be given together with the rejection letter. But to be eligible for a Seal of Excellence, you must give consent to sharing some of your basic information on the application with other funding and support organizations. So there you need to pay attention when you get to section 5 of the application form, because this is really where you have these questions giving consent. You will receive guidance from RTD, and we will also make this available via our portal. as to where you can search for funding of projects that have not been selected to the main list. And I also included here a link to the RTD website on further opportunities and the support regarding Seal of Excellence. And as I've mentioned, this is the overall 2023 calendar for all of our calls under the 2023 work program. And the first deadline we have will fall on the 24th of January. Then we have another one coming up on the 20th of April, and then again in mid-September. Then I was asked to explain a bit about the proof of concept and the link to EIC, because during the last few years, our scientific council, more specifically the working group on innovation that is set down by the council and has 6 council members, have worked in close collaboration with EIC. And one of the decisions that was made was to make our PoC grantees eligible for EIC transition calls. So in these calls, single applicants, which can be on any type of applicant or host institution, let's say, so either SMEs or research organization, universities, or a small consortia of up to 5 partners, they can apply for up to, well, it actually says 2.5 million euro grants or more if justified. And the call budget in 2022 was 131 million euros. And applications are restricted to results generated by Pathfinder projects, which is from the EIC, the AeroNet projects under the FED program, and then our ERC proof of concept projects. What is important to mention is that as an applicant, you will need to demonstrate that you're the owner or the holder of the IPR, or that you have the necessary rights to commercialize the results from one of, from your project. And as a service, the EIC provides a list of potential eligible projects every year, and you can find this via the link in my presentation, where you will also find more information on the EIC transition call, and including on their EIC business acceleration services, which is a support that is given to all EIC grant holders. Okay, and I just wanted to give you a few statistics there, because with the EIC transition call in 2021, which was the first call where PoC had these special eligibility rules, the PoC holders fared very well, actually. So 104 proposals were submitted based on ERC PoC projects out of a total of 231. And of these 104 proposals, 25 were funded, which gives a success rate of 24%. And you can see here that actually the funding that was given out to these exclusive calls, 60% was given to PoC holders and 40% to Pathfinder holders. And I also wanted to show you this, that in fact, which is the same for ERC PoC calls, we have many applications from our starting and consolidated grantees, and they tend to fare very well. And they also did in this 2021 transition call. So 7 starting grantees, 10 COP grantees, 7 advanced grantees, and 1 synergy grantee were successful in 2021 with the transition call. Then I give you a few statistics on the proof of concept. This is the first overview slide where until June this year, we have included all funded projects since the ERC PoC was launched back in 2011. And you see France is doing very well in terms of numbers of proof of concept projects, and additional around 30 projects has been given out since then. So the number is increasing. And I also included our results of the first PoC call 2022, which we ran to catch up for the missing PoC call in 2021. So it had a separate call budget of 25 million euro, and we had 348 proposals evaluated. So this was the biggest PoC call ever. And with the 25 million, we were able to fund 166 projects, which gave a success rate of 48%. So this year has been a bit special because we had this first separate call and then followed by a normal 2022 call with 3 deadlines in February, May, and in September. And you also see that the gender success rate, the female success rate was high in this first call. So we tend to have fewer female applicants than male applicants, and but they tend to do very well. So I just wanted to show you this as an encouragement to our female grantees. So this is the results per host institution country of this first call, and you see that the success rate by French hosted applicants was actually entirely on the average 48% with 15 projects. And you see also here the split per original panel, let's say, of the ERC main grant of the PoC holders or the PoC awardees. And this is a very sort of common picture that we see. We have very many applications from P8 and P7. So on material science and instruments and so on, and also from LS7, which is the medical science panel. We tend to have fewer applications from social sciences and humanities, but actually the number is quite stable. Around 15% of our applications comes from within social sciences and humanities, and the Scientific Council would like to see that this number goes up. So we want to really encourage applications also from social sciences and humanities. From grantees working within these fields. And I would like to mention here that we have panel members that are really exclusively working on these areas. So we do this split when we assign the proposals. So here I show you again the split of the 166 projects over the call of original grant. And you see, as for the EIC, our starting grantees and the consolidated grantees, they do really very well. So they have more than 80% of the PoC projects. And we also funded 3 synergy grant projects for which we were quite happy because we have few of those by experience. And with this, I will close my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions when we get to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you. After this presentation of the PoC grant scheme, we are going to have a feedback from Alejandro Franco, who got his ERC PoC in 2022. So Alejandro, I propose you, do you have some presentation to share or not? Yes?
Yeah, yes, I have one. I'm going to share my screen. Do you see my screen?
No, yes, it's coming. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, yes, my name is Alejandro Franco. I am a full professor at the University of Picardie Jules Verne in the city of Amiens in France. And I'm going to share my experience with the ERC PoC call. So I'm working in the field of batteries. I'm more particular in the field of lithium-ion batteries. As you know, these batteries are powering many types of devices, right? And they are also allowing the reemergence of electric vehicles. And the practical properties of these batteries, such as, for instance, the amount of energy you can store in a battery, the power of the battery, lifetime, and even the safety, these are properties strongly related to the manufacturing process or in particular of the electrodes, which are in the core of these lithium-ion battery cells. And the manufacturing process of these electrodes and these battery cells is highly complex, so it involves multiple steps, multiple parameters, and the consequence of that is that we used to face very high scrap rates in production of the batteries. They can be as high as 5%, which is really a lot in comparison to the production of very mature technologies. And they can be as high as 30% in prototyping lines, right? Or battery production pilot lines, right? Which is also very big number, right? And this is why, so we are facing the need of tools to accelerate the optimization of this manufacturing process in order to get the right parameters and to make batteries that can be highly durable, with highest performance as possible, and so on and so forth. And this is actually what motivates my my ERC project. This is actually a consolidator grant, a project that I proposed in 2017. So, and I got the funding, and then so the project started in 2018. And this project, so what I am developing is a digital twin of the lithium-ion battery manufacturing process based on different types of computational models, in particular physics-based models, I mean models describing the physics going on along the manufacturing process of these batteries, but also machine learning models, which are models, this is a subfield of artificial intelligence, and these models are very useful to unravel correlations between manufacturing parameters and electron and cell properties. In my artistic project, so we have produced a lot. We have a bit more than 55 publications since 2018, more than 65 invited conferences. So there's a lot of outreach about this work. And this is why, so I was thinking that, okay, maybe there is something to do with these tools to maximize the impact of the tools in the place of experimentation, in particular when we are manufacturing batteries in factories, right, and in gigafactories. I think many of you probably heard about all these gigafactory projects blooming across Europe in particular. So then I apply to the ERC proof of concept call with a project called Smartistic, with the idea to develop a complementary technology, maximizing the impact of these different models or software that we have developed in my artistic project for its use in the place of experimentation. In particular, here we are using a mixed reality, okay, as the concept behind this new type of technology. And the idea of my ERC proof of concept project was to basically develop a prototype of this technology, demonstrate this technology and test this technology with partners, okay, academic and industrial partners, who could be in the future potential clients if we actually adopt, I would say, a commercial path, right, to valorize this software. And I thought that the ERC proof of concept was a natural call to apply because the project I had in mind and this new complementary technology I had in mind is heavily supported on the result of my ERC consolidator grant project, right? So the outcomes of my proposal, my application is the following. So I applied for the first time in 2020 to this ERC PoC. My project was selected for the complementary list, but it was not funded. So then I applied again in 2021 in the call with a deadline in October 2021. So it was the ERC 2012 PoC 1 call. I got the grant for a project start in April 2022. Okay, the project is now running since then. And the consequence of that, I mean, for me to get this funding is, for sure, is very important because this, first of all, allows to achieve the objectives that I'm listing above, right? So developing in particular this complementary technology to maximize the impact of the software we develop in artistic project in the pilot lines and in the factories of batteries, right? As a complement, I got also a CNRS prematuration funding for a complementary action about the training in the battery manufacturing field. This is actually a project about training newcomers, the people who are learning how to manufacture batteries in the proper way, right? While my ERC project is more about developing a tool to assist the confirmed researchers, engineers, and technicians making batteries to help them in the decision making on how to optimize the process, right? Then the two projects are highly complementary. And thanks to that, now, so we are initiating a process towards the creation of a startup. This is finally the path that I have decided to follow, because there are many actors from the academic side, but also from industrial side, who are very interested on the results that we have achieved in the artistic project in terms of models able to predict the influence of manufacturing parameters on electrode and battery cell properties. And many of those people would like actually to use the software to adapt to their user cases and so on and so on. And this is why we adopt then I adopt the path of creation of a startup. Therefore, the ERC proof of concept is definitely a very important pillar of this initiative. And here, so in this slide, I'm sharing with you a little bit of my experience, right, of in writing the different sessions of this ERC proof of concept. First of all, my advice will be maybe be yourself. So when you write the proposal, for sure you will, when you write maybe a first draft of your proposal, you will make your proposal to be read by other colleagues, by other people with different backgrounds and so on. You will for sure listen many type of opinions, right? But at the end, so the person who takes a decision is you, right? And you should somehow compile the best and the worst from all the information that you receive, from colleagues, peers, or other people, right? This is exactly like writing a ERC, a ERC proposal, right? Main projects in that sense, right? Now, in terms of the problem and the solution, so this is something that I was advised to write in a way that can be understood by no specialist. In particular, people with a business background and so on, that they will have some knowledge about technologies, about science, but they are not really in the field, right? They are maybe not physical chemists or maybe electrochemists or battery people, if we talk about my expertise, right? Therefore, so it's very important to write to explain the problem and to explain the solution you are proposing in a very understandable way, a very popularized way, I would say. Then, another important section that I had also to write for the project call I applied to is the demonstration of the innovation potential. So that means the positioning of this new idea that you want to develop, heavily based on your ongoing ERC project results. You need to demonstrate the positioning versus state of the art, right? So why this technology is new, right? Why, okay, no one else actually developed this kind of technology before, right? This is a little bit like in the main ERC project. When you prepare the course for the proposals for the main ERC course. Then, so another part is the benefits. From my side, so I also include discussions about the potential economical benefit of my technology, the societal impact, the cultural impact in terms of policies. These are things that are actually, I would say, very relevant in the context of batteries, right? Because we are talking about energy storage, we are talking about electrification of transportation, green energies, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, all the part related to the high gain, high risk, to explain in a very, I would say, intuitive manner. So why your actual technology will actually imply a high gain for the community, and what are the risks actually in the development of the technology that you are proposing. Then, so the plans to assess the effectiveness of the project outcomes. So this is, I found this part very, very interesting to write. So it's basically how you are going to measure the effectiveness of your project outcomes. You want to, basically, in my case, I want my technology to impact the battery manufacturing community. So in a way that my technology can accelerate the optimization of the manufacturing process. Help people to predict which parameters are the ones that they need to adopt in order to make better batteries, right? And then so how, here I had to write how I'm going to measure that, right? The effectiveness of my technology on doing so, okay? How I'm going to measure the degree of impact, right? In terms of acceleration of this optimization of manufacturing process of batteries. Then I also found very interesting this the section relating to the knowledge transfer strategy. So in my case, so I wrote that I was having in mind two possible paths. So one was maybe a license transfer of my software to some pre-existing software companies. The other path, I also mentioned that, might be the creation of a startup, right? So I mentioned both. Basically, you don't need to take a decision there when you write a proposal. You simply need to explain, right, what you have in mind at time t, in the time that you write your proposal. And then so you explain why these different paths, right, and what will be eventually your possible partners, right, depending on these different paths that you follow, but nothing more than that. The contacts, if you have contacts, in particular with maybe potential clients or users, in case that you don't intend to valorize commercially, you know, the results or the technology, and maybe you are targeting the development of more open source software, for instance, and so on, that will be nice also that if you, yeah, I mean, it can help actually to have this, I mean, mentioning the name maybe of the companies or the labs, what interest also in your technology, and then the letters of support, that's definitely nice if you can get them also to support these writings, right, when you are preparing the proposal. Description of the work, I was advised to prepare in the sense of a work package, task, deliverable, and so on, in contrast to, you know, to the main ERC grant, where I also organized my ERC grant, I mean, my main project in work package and task, but we listen also that it's not needed, right? But here I was advised to do so because once again, maybe this shows that you're organizing well the work, you know, you have a timing, you know, in mind, right, of the different actions to undertake. And then very important also risk assessment and the contingency plan. So listing very well the risk, and then so listing also what will be the plan Bs, right, if you fail with some of these actions, and of course the Gantt chart, right? And then the capacity of the PI and the description of the project team. So from my side, I wrote this part mostly focusing on my experience on managing projects, right, of networking with potential collaborators, right, and collaborators that could be clients maybe one day, I mean, in the scenario of creating a startup or commercialization. So this is the way that I adopt actually to write this. And then so for my CV, I mean, my highlights and so on, I mostly refer the readers to my website and so on, right? This is, I mean, this was my personal actually decision doing that way. And to finish, this is the last paragraph here. In my proposal case, before starting to write the proposal, I was already having a lot of interest of the community on the work that we are doing in the artistic project in terms of software development and demonstration that we did actually through the publications and through the presentations in the conferences, right? But then maybe my advice will be that if maybe you are not in the same situation, right? You have a great idea and so on, maybe could be nice if you can maybe discuss with your partners or maybe collaborators and so on to a little bit have some idea, you know, what will be the expectations from them. If maybe your solution can maybe helping us solving some practical problems that these people might have, right? I also perform interviews actually with some of the actors. I mean, just more or less to have an idea about a more detailed idea about the needs, because I already knew what were the needs, but to have a more specific idea, right? For instance, a very simple example, right? So if you want to predict the influence of manufacturing parameters on electrodes or battery cell properties, okay, you need to use some software, right? It's the software we are developing artistic project that we are proposing through the artistic project. But then the question is in practice, what will be acceptable for this partner or eventual client in terms of computational cost, right? In terms of computational time, right? Is this few hours or is this few seconds, right? This is the kind of information that actually I was looking for through these interviews. And then so I was helped by Senior S Innovation. So they helped me on writing, not writing, but on proofreading actually my writing, providing me some nice advice, because I was already in contact with them through my Senior S prematuration project, I mean, for training scenarios that I mentioned before. And also, I made my proposal to be read by members of my teams and colleagues closely related to my project. I also make my proposal to be read by my wife. So even though she's a teacher of German, I mean, nothing to do with science, batteries, and so on, but it was very useful because she, you know, I want my proposal to be understandable by no specialist, right? And she gave me also very nice advice on maybe on some way of wording and so on. I mean, ways of wording, I mean, some sentences and phrasing, I mean, some sentences and so on to make them more clear. Okay, that's all. So if you have questions, I will be more than happy to answer. I hope that what I could, I mean, some of this information is useful for you, for your future applications. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Alejandro. Thank you for this feedback. So we are effectively start with the question and answer session, and we have some people who raise up their hands. So Benoit Pelopidas, can you open your screen, your camera and your microphone and ask your question? We cannot hear you. No. Yeah, we can see you, but we cannot hear you. Yeah. Yes, the mic is on, but there is an issue with Teams. So maybe you can write your question in the chat. And meanwhile, we are going to ask to Yolanda to ask her question.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, great.
Yes. Okay, so my question is, I'm a little bit confused about this PoC application, whether it's only for technological developments or whether in a, for example, in my ERC grant, we were evaluating some biological effects or some biological mechanism of a certain technique, whether if we have seen something a little bit different, whether these PoC applications could finance going in that direction. Or it's only to kind of develop further a technology or going from a concept to a technology. This is confusing for me.
Yeah. So basically, what the experts will be looking for is an idea that can eventually become an innovation, let's say. So they're not looking for a continuation of your previous research. It's really ideas that are coming out of your main grant, which you suddenly realize this can be used in a different area for a different application and help users or industry or policymakers. So to create some value for these people. So it would not
hear you anymore.
Can you not hear me?
Happening? Yeah, I hear you.
We do. I hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
No.
All right.
So it has to be a technology to be, or idea to be applied in a different subject, in a different context, or it can be a technology that you have started developing and you are not sure if this could be applied.
Yeah, it could be the very first. It's true now that, I mean, with the new way that we're phrasing it, it can be also used to explore, you know, whether eventually it could be applied, let's say. So the very first steps can also be included now. So, but you need to have a view about how this idea can create value downstream, let's say, on the track towards innovation, and you must have a very clear idea of that, because you must explain this to the experts for them to see the value of the research that you would then need to conduct on top of what is already done. You see, so yeah.
But you don't need to have a patent or something on the.
No. you could eventually aim to obtain a patent doing more research and thus explain that this is where you are and this is the idea.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the question of Benoit. Whether the PoC project have to be about the project that leads to a financial profit, or whether devices that would end up be free or public would be eligible.
Yes, yes. It's equally, let's say, valid to have a open source, make it open source or have a value creation via company or a startup. I mean, it's this is really open. So
including the social value.
Including the social
meaning
value.
It's going to help the citizens and not to raise money?
Exactly.
Okay.
You just have to state it very clearly what your intentions are and why, so that it makes sense.
Thanks. Philippe Marcus.
Hello, do you hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay, well, first, thank you for the presentations. I have a PoC project which is already written. I have a fairly strong letter of support from an industrial partner, but now I encounter an administrative problem, which is the following. I've now turned the Director of Research Emeritus at CNRS, and the administration is telling me that CNRS cannot be the host institution because the time period for the PoC project, which will be 18 months starting, say, in September 2023, will exceed by a few months the time period for my emeritus status. And although I plan to apply for renewal, it seems to be a problem. It might be surprising, but that's the case. So what should I do? Can I look for another host institution? Can it be, for example, a learned society? I'm president of a learned society, but I don't know if it can be a host institution. I think there is always a problem with the wording of the letter because you used, I think, Lynn, you used the word letter of support from the host institution, but in the letter it says that the host institution must host and engage. And you know that in French, engage means that you have to be employed by that. And of course, for example, as president of a learned society, I'm not employed, it's a volunteer. Okay, so, well, I think you know the problem. What should I do? And it seems to be a major problem. I may not be able to apply, although the whole project is ready, because of this administrative problem.
I'm sorry to hear that. I've heard about this issue before, and I think we may consider the way we phrase it in the letter, because our intention is simply that the host institution should host your project. We don't actually look at whether they employ you for the full period of the time or if they pay you on the project or not. So in that sense, I think you should read the word engage simply as providing you with what you're asking for in the project.
But would it be allowed to remove the word engage and just say host? Because that might be fine, maybe.
Yes, I think what I would invite you to do is to send a specific question to our applicant's mailbox, and I've included it our address in the last slide of my presentation, because we have I have someone still with the...
Yeah, there's someone whose mic is open.
Je pense que pour l'instant, avoir modifié celui de l'ERC, c'est suffisant parce que c'est ça la deadline qu'on aura.
Who's speaking?
On peut quand même espérer que pour d'autres deadlines, on aura Fiesta à jour.
I think Benoit has his microphone working now, so...
Okay, so because then we would send a question to our legal unit to ask this specific clarification.
Yeah.
So whenever you have an issue like the one just explained, I really invite you all to make use of our applicant's mailbox, because whether it's a question on budget or on ethics or other legal aspects, we will direct them to our colleagues and we will provide you with an answer within a very short time, usually within 2 weeks. So this
okay, I'll do that. But now in terms of who could be the host institution, what would be the definition of host institutions? If it's not CNRS or university, can it be a learned society? Can it be a small company?
It can be anything. It can really be anything. Even a one-person company is eligible.
Yeah, still have a question, and just to be sure to let the other people ask the question, are there not an issue or question regarding the IPR property in France? The IPR property relies with the employer, so Philippe will need the agreement from CNRS to let the new organization take the continuation of the valorization of the development of the results, and maybe it can help you, Philippe, to choose what kind of organization can be the host institution. It needs to be one for which the CNRS can sign something for the future development of your results. Maybe the university, if you are in a joint research unit, maybe it can be, because there are contrats de site, conventions de site, which define the joint ownership of the results. Maybe it can be a way to be allowed to participate and to solve this issue.
Yeah, thank you. I'm in a joint research unit, and actually Chimie Paris would be happy to host me, but they don't want to sign a letter saying host and engage, because they cannot engage me in the French understanding of the word. They can host. Actually, I'm still head of the research group, so they by definition, they are hosting me.
Okay. Thank you. Yanli Diao, you can ask your question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I belong to the panel 6, so I'm in computer science. I do have a question about that innovation potential, because, for example, what I do, one topic is explainable anomaly detection. We receive a lot of requests from industry, but then I'm asking between two things, which one counts as the innovation potential for this particular project. For example, we discovered many new scientific problems. For this to go real, to be used by real world users, right? There are a lot of problems we didn't consider in the original proposal. So we can address additional problems, or we can take the engineering approach to make our software actually usable, for example, not only by banks, by cloud service providers, or by healthcare providers. We need to go for much larger scale software development by, maybe incorporating more feature engineering techniques and more algorithms that suit different scenarios. So belong the scientific path to solve additional problems, make the problem strong, solution strong, or taking the engineering approach to make the software package usable. So which one is more suitable for this POC project? Thank you.
It would be a guess on my side, but I think the engineering approach would probably be more convincing. I think you would need to, at least for the more analytical development side, then be very clear about what the intention would be downstream and why it would be important to develop these aspects more in depth, and what could be the potential application of those when you go along. But you could apply with both, first one and then the other. It could be complementary, let's say. Yeah.
I see. But the engineering aspect is a very important aspect, right? Because we're going to bring it to the real world users. I see. And then I guess in terms of applications, I can also say before we consider only 1 or 2 application domains. Now, for example, to extend to healthcare, we need to do additional developments, right? So that is like going to the broader user communities.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Just For Christian and Cécile, can you raise your hand so you are in the field d'attente for the question? Sorry. So now we have a question from Felix Rico.
Yeah. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. So thank you for the presentations and information. So partially the question is answered already, because it was regarding this use of open software or hardware and the outcome being open, based on open software and hardware. So there is no intellectual property there, or there is not direct link. So then my more practical question would be for Alejandro regarding this startup that I don't think I understood if you created already the startup or you wanted to create it, and that's more like an advisory or a consultancy startup based on a software that you have developed. Is that?
No, no. So we are in the process of creating our own startup.
And that would bring, and that it will be like a service, or it will be a product that you have?
Product.
Okay.
You identified the startup creation as a deliverable in your PoC project?
No. This is something that I was saying. So the ERC PoC was very important to accelerate the process towards the creation of the startup, but the deliverable was not the startup. I discussed in the corresponding section in the proposal. I discussed this as an eventuality, right? So I discussed that one possible path was transferring the license of my software to existing companies, but other possible paths might be the creation of a startup, right? And then explain why I was considering these two possible paths for my particular case, right? For my results from my main ERC, right? But no, you don't have to promise actually creation of startup in ERC PoC. No. Okay. This was my case, right?
And then the product is the software itself in your case, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So basically, in the main Consolidator Grant project in the ERC, so we develop different new software, right? Once again, for predicting influence of manufacturing parameters on electrons and properties for batteries. And then, so in the ERC PoC, the idea was developing, is developing a new technology which brings this software into the place of experimentation to make it more accessible to users with different profiles. Users who are not necessarily coming from the computational science background and so on, right? Because we want the software to be as impactful as possible in the experimentation, right? Because we are dealing here with the manufacturing of batteries. And then this was my project about, right? Was developing this technology and, somehow increasing, thanks to this technology, the TRL of the software that we develop in Artistic, right? But this once again was my personal choice and the way that I thought my proposal. It doesn't need to be in that way, right? So it was my choice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ioannis Stefanou.
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for this this information and for this event. I have a couple of questions regarding the choice of the panel, especially for interdisciplinary projects. How strategically we should choose the panel, and maybe this is related to the budget too, in order to increase our chances of success. This is one question. The second one is are the support letters indispensable? Meaning, if we don't have support letters, does this mean that we have lower chances? And the third one has to do with the creation of a startup. How difficult would it be to have a collaboration between the university or the transfer of the intellectual property from the university to the startup in the French environment? That's all. Thank you.
So maybe, Yin, I'll let you answer, and you're going to answer to the question of the panel in the PoC project, and maybe you can present what is the profile of the evaluators in the PoC.
Yes, indeed.
For the PoC.
because maybe I didn't make it clear enough. The PoC panel acts as one big panel, actually. So we don't ask you to give us a primary and a secondary panel. We are trying from co-coordination side to match because we know our experts, we know their expertise. They have also expressed sort of at a panel level what type of projects they can take on to evaluate. Some are very broad in their experience, so they can take applications from various scientific domains. Others are more narrow and wishes to have only applications within, let's say, medical sciences or even like population biology, or so it's very different. We have really a big variation among our experts who are experts in technology transfer and in social innovation. Many of them work in private or public technology transfer offices or in with the patenting and so on. So we have this, and a few of them are actually previous ERC panel members, ERC grantees that have specialized in technology transfer and is good at assessing the potential of these innovation ideas. So we have very broad panel and we're trying to match you up as best as we can. We look at the abstracts of the proposal and then we match it up with the experts. This is how we work. And then I also try for proposals that are resubmitted from one year to the next. I try to assign new experts to these projects so that you would get, different feedback and that our evaluations are truly independent from one another. This is how we work. And you had a second question, I think I could answer.
Yes, thank you. The second was about the letter of intent,
Yes.
the letter of intent from companies or other. Is it necessary? It is obligatory or?
No, it's not an obligation. It should only be sent, of course, if it makes sense for your project. It depends really where you are also on this track towards innovation. If you have already identified a specific end user group, if it makes sense to involve these, if you have already established links with potential partners, it can be a good idea to include support letters from them. But if it doesn't make sense for your project, they are not obligatory.
Thank you.
And for the last part of the question about the how one people living in the French environment can valorize its results, I will propose to Alejandro to speak about his experience.
Yeah, so I think this depends maybe on the university, in the institution you are working, but I'm very happy to be involved in the RS2E. It's a French network on energy storage, right? RS2E, which is a network dealing with batteries, right? And we have already experience on creating, the network has already experience on creating startups from the results resulting from the academic labs. So the process here is very smooth. And in that sense, and the
university accepts to transfer, for example, existing rights of existing patents, or okay.
Yeah, there's always for sure a negotiation and so on, right?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Of course, but the things are we are used to proceed in a very smooth manner, between the university senior S and the startups creation. I have one example. I can mention that because startup exists already since some years. It's not my startup, but it's a startup created from results from this lab. It's Tiamat. It's a startup intending to, start to commercialize sodium-ion batteries. Batteries made of sodium and not lithium. And this company was created from results obtained in academic labs, right? From a partnership between Howard Lab and other labs in France. So yeah.
I will complete this answer by advising you to discuss with the TTO, the transfer office of your university, if you are in a university, because effectively the results don't belong to you. It is the French national regulation. So you need to explain what you wish to do and what is your view of this valorization, and negotiate with them, but at the time of the proposal writing, so now, not after, otherwise you will have problems.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
You need to...
Cannot hear me?
Yeah.
No, you cannot hear me. I was just about to say thank you to both of you for your presentations, which were very concise and very clear. I had a couple of questions, more practical questions. I'm at Insam Transfer, and I'm supporting researchers in the writing of their grants. One of my questions was relating also to the letters of interest and the support letters, their value, and if you have any statistics on the success of projects who have been submitted with letters of support. And the second question was more relating to the practical writing of the project. You were speaking about the maximum page numbers for the different sections. And I have again and again researchers who like to, or who are writing more about the idea and how they would like to go about to resolve the problem, or more about the methodology. So my question is simply, how fixed are these page numbers? Is there any flexibility, or do you really need to stay strictly within these set page numbers? Thank you.
Lynn?
Yeah, so for the page numbers, it's we are quite strict, or to say that the experts are quite strict, some of them. So even though we don't apply them very strictly as eligibility criteria, let's say, we might, if somebody would submit a very, very long proposal, of course, this we wouldn't accept, but basically the experts, they do not like to see that you go beyond the limits that you are given because of the fairness to other applicants. So I think you really need to stress to your PIs that they should stay and respect the page limits they are given.
Okay.
We have now clarified in the template type B that the first section on the idea is excluding the header, because it takes the header and the title takes like one fourth of a page. So this you can exclude and allow yourself a bit more for the first section, but to please stay and respect the limits you are given. And the first question, remind me, sorry.
No, it was just the second question was actually concerning the value of the support letters.
Yes. Well, we have not done specific statistics actually on those, because we would need to do really manual statistics because applicants can submit also additional support documents related to ethics and security issues. So we would need to sit down and really mark each of these appendixes as support letters from, and then divide them by user groups, by industry, and so on. So we have not done any statistics on that. I think that the best advice is simply to make only available those that really make sense for the project. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's essentially what I said to my researchers as well, that I just wanted to have confirmation about also about the page numbers. So, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Cécile?
Yes, hello, thank you very much. I too is supporting researchers at CNRS, and I had perhaps more for Alessandro, but I think Lynn might have something to say as well. I often get the comment that people don't really get the high risk, high gain issue when for something that goes towards innovation and impact ultimately. So Alessandro, perhaps could you specifically tell us how you managed to deal with that and compared to a main ERC application? I think that would help people. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question. Yes, this is a very important question. I would say a very critical question when you write the proposal, right? To really assess the degree of innovation of your proposal. I mean, if you are maybe proposing something which is incremental or maybe more disruptive, right? And so on and so forth. From my side, the way I used to work is that when I have an idea, I have a color scale, kind of ruler, right? With different colors. Blue means that, okay, the risk, assess the risk, right, of materializing this idea. Blue means that, okay, it's no major difficulty, to achieve this, to materialize this idea. Then I have five points, in this ruler. Right? So blue is being the minimal risk and red mean the maximal risk, right? And then when I have this idea, I try to place it, it's like a TRL for the risk, right? I try to place my idea regarding this ruler. And then with that, I intend, when I'm writing a proposal that is intended to be high risk, I target being more in the extreme of the ruler, right? So red or even orange, right? The color just before, right? That's the way I used to work, right? For deciding if my idea is sufficiently high risk or not. Then the technology that I was proposing in this ERC PoC definitely was high risk because it actually requires doing something that didn't exist yet. So, and by taking, and I was sure that it will be possible, but only if we exploit the results coming from a main ERC project, okay? Because there we developed some kind of software that could actually allow to materialize this idea, right? To make it working. And this is the way actually I discuss this part, right? Why my project is high risk, right? Explaining the technological reasons why it's high risk. And then explaining why I am confident actually that I can overcome these risks thanks to the uniqueness of the results I obtained in my main ERC project. And then in terms of high gain, I don't have this ruler system right there, but it's, I would say, maybe because in my field it's maybe easier, to evaluate impact because it's all about energy, environmental aspects, economical aspects as well, because in my case, I'm using computational models to accelerate the optimization of a process, right? Then definitely we can speak about saving time, saving cost, saving materials as well. So improving the recycling conditions of the batteries as well, because you reduce the scrap rates, right? When you are prototyping batteries or you are producing batteries. So yes, that's the way I discuss the high impact, the high gain part, right? Which is related to the impact. But for the risk, it's more this ruler system. This is very personal, right? I'm just sharing my personal way of doing. Yes. And then if my idea doesn't fall in this high risk category, well, it doesn't mean that I will work on my idea to try to match this. It simply means that this is not the right call to go with this idea, right? And then I will apply in another call where, okay, this is maybe will be more suitable, right? If it's more incremental and so on, right? This is the way I wrote this part. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Julien?
Yes, hello everybody, thank you. So I have a question. During my ERC consolidator, which is still running, I've co-founded a startup company, which goal is to further develop what we are doing, what we have discovered. So I was wondering whether already having a startup company is an advantage or disadvantage regarding the PoC.
No, it would not be. It would not be.
It's not to do the exact same thing, obviously.
Yeah.
Because what I would like to submit to the PoC is something that derives from our ERC, which is not what the startup is doing at the moment, but it's linked, obviously. So it's not the exact same thing.
I think it links a bit to the previous question, because it would still need to be high risk, let's say, to be really aimed for us, because if it would be low risk, high gain, then you would probably have other funding opportunities for this idea. So, but it's definitely not a disadvantage to have it already created, and you can have it as the host of the project directly. So
I still have the letter of support then.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
Yeah, and it can also be a split project between your original host institution and the startup. We see this very often. So so definitely not a drawback at all.
Would it be relevant to have the startup company as a host of the PoC, or can I still have the CNRS of my laboratory as a host?
It's entirely up to you.
Okay, fine then. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We also see that people change because maybe the startup has developed while the evaluation is ongoing, and it makes more sense to make them the host. So when you start thinking about the split of budget, we also see some changes there during the granting. So so we are very flexible in this regard, actually.
Okay. And last question, sorry, about preliminary data. Is it something really important, like it could be for the normal ERC, or it's not necessary to have some?
I think for the experts to be able to judge on the feasibility, I mean, any preliminary data that can support that your idea is feasible makes very much sense to include. Yes.
Thanks a lot.
Benoit, I think now you can speak. We can hear you more exactly. No, we cannot still hear you. Alors, I'm going to read your question. Would a letter of support from a UN agency to show that this project meets a social need, so would be favorable for the evaluation?
Yes, I believe so. I mean, this would be sort of at the political level, at an acknowledgement of the potential impact of your idea. Of course, now I don't know the details, but it seems to me it would make very much sense. Yes.
Maybe a last question, if anyone has a question to ask. And I see people who are asking a question in the chat. I invite you to ask the question directly. It would be easier so everybody hears the answer and it is registered. Sami Jana? I'm going to read your question. You mentioned,
sorry,
yes, you're here.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go on.
It was a very simple question, actually. That's why I just wrote it. You mentioned that ERC, like the PoC grantees were then eligible to apply to another grant, and the success rates were like 10 or 20%. And I'm trying to find the information because I don't remember what was the name of the grant scheme. Could you please remind us?
So it's the EIC transition call. It's the European Innovation Council, which was created with Horizon Europe, basically. So so you would just need to go through to their website. But I included the link in the presentation. I suppose, Caroline, that this will be shared after the webinar. So yes. But any questions about EIC transition, I invite you to direct to the EIC transition colleagues, because this is really not under our remit. And so just to make sure that you get the correct and most updated information, we invite you to contact them directly.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. There was one from Cecile to Alejandro.
Yeah, but I asked her to ask the question directly.
Yes.
And now there is Emily Marcelet. So as she mentioned, she's listening to us in the train, but I cannot see the question. So maybe she's planning to meet you in Amiens.
I can, if you want me to, Caroline, if you want me to. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is from Emily to Alessandro. You had also received a regional funding ERC to review the proposal by consultant. Was it helpful to your application process?
I don't remember. Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. No, because I applied 2 times, right? In 2020, 2021. But definitely, I mean, if having the help of, consultant people, I mean, to read and so on, definitely this will be, this is something that can be very helpful. Yeah, for sure. I'm very sorry, Cecile, maybe we can exchange separately because yes, I don't remember having this help. Maybe it goes through one of my institutions and I was not aware of. But I remember for sure a lot of exchange with Señores Innovación, for sure, and also my colleagues here in the lab. But definitely it's good. I mean, if this is also maybe an advice I mean to share. If there is some consulting company also that can proofread the proposal, that could be beneficial also for polishing the writing and so on, right? I mean, the style, right? It's more an exercise of a style, I would say. But at the end of the day, my advice is that the proposal is yours, right? And then at the end, you decide, right, what to take in, what you leave out, right? For sure.
And a last question from Jonathan, and it's a good question as a first conclusion. Does make a sense in chances if one apply in the first of the last call of the year?
Yes,
this is strategic and it's very important.
I'm happy that I have the chance to repeat this point because what we've seen since 2018 is actually that the applicants tend to apply late in the year. So we have fewest application in January, then a bit more in April, and then a lot in September. And the way that we implement the call, and this is stated in the work program, the budget is split over the 3 cutoff deadlines, and it means that the success rates are higher in the first and second evaluation round, which means it's a very good idea to submit your application in January, better in January, but also very good in April, to have the highest chances of funding.
And if you have the possibility to apply to a call, for example, if you are in the middle of your ERC project, you can apply in September, for example, to the call 2023 and get the evaluation, and then start again in 2024, and you will have the evaluation report, and you will be on the call, on the deadline that has the highest success rates. So it may be something to do if you manage to find time to do this kind of game, if I may say like that. So thank you for all these questions. I'm going to share some slides with information that can help you in your application. So I'm going back to my presentation if I find it. So some information, of course, you have the ERC website that gives you many interesting information. And I also put the link for the presentation, the video, the ERC classes video concerning the ERC proof of concept. You will have this PowerPoint. So you will have here the address, the direct address for the ERC work program 2023. The list of the laureate and the abstract, so you can see what is actually funded. The panel members, who are they? Because we are always writing for people. So who are these people who read, who evaluate your proposal? It's always interesting to see who are they. And then on a more practical point of view, all the documents related to the ERC 2023 call with the guide for applicants, the guide for evaluators, which I invite you to read. There are many interesting information in this document, and the template. So for now, the call is open, so you can have access to the funding and tenders facility to open your project and get the template. At least I would like to remind you all the services provided by the National Contact Point. So we are providing information, actualities, and webinars like this one. We have hotline, phone, and email. Sorry. We share information through Twitter and through LinkedIn. You have the link to find us on these two social networks. We are participating to regional, real information meetings, whether national or local. And we are also doing individual interviews. So if you need to have answers to more specific questions regarding your project, you can contact us on our email here. And before ending the webinar, I will just remind you and ask my colleague who are all the other French contact point. So Marie, Rosa, can you turn on your camera? Pascal is here. I think she's in a train, or she's somewhere in the train. She's not technically with us. She's with us on the chat. So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much to Lynn and Alejandro for their participation and their feedbacks. So this session has been registered, so it will be available for the other PoC grantees who would wish to apply later on this year. Thank you all, and wish you a great application.
Good
luck.
luck.
Thank you. Good luck, everyone.